Today I am so excited to be able to share with you 5 new Dollar Tree DIY Valentine decor projects. What is so exciting is 4 out of the 5 of these projects will carry you past Valentine's Day. Yep, no need to sit there and figure out where you're going to store these because you can keep them out as long as you want. If you're anything like me, it is fantastic to find decor that will take you past the holiday that they are intended for, and that's exactly what these are gonna do. If you are new, hi and welcome. My name is Jennifer and this is a little bit of Calm and Crazy. If you enjoy easy DIYs and budget decor, make sure that you hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And come and follow me over on Instagram where I like to share with you some behind the scenes, some little videos that I may not share here. And let's go ahead and get into today's projects. For this project, I am using both of these signs that I got from Dollar Tree. I'm actually going to be using the back of the love sign and just the metal heart from the second sign. So if you don't have the love sign, don't worry about it. You could also use a scrap piece of wood. I just used a paint scraper that I pick up at the Dollar Tree in order to pop these off, and I'm only needing 2 of these. If you don't have this sign, you can always cut out your own hearts. You could do fabric hearts. There are so many different options that you could use instead of having to use these corrugated metal ones. To paint this sign, I am just using some white chalk paint. This is Waverly's chalk paint, and I pick it up at Walmart. I will have a complete supply list for you in the description box below. If you want to see where I get things, exactly what I'm using, you can always reference that. Once the paint has completely dried, then I go in with a straight edge and a Sharpie, and I draw a couple of lines in order to create like a faux shiplap. Once I have those lines on there, in order to soften them up, I use a 220 grit sandpaper and just do a light sanding, and that just softens up my lines perfectly. So I'm using my Cricut, and this is the 4-season home decor font that I will be using. Now, if you don't happen to have a Cricut or an electric cutter, then you of course can freehand this. You can use a stencil, you could use stickers, you could do a transfer. There are so many other options, and you can choose what works best for you. Before I start to attach anything, I always like to lay it out so that I have a visual idea of where I want it to go first. And once I have that, then I can start attaching it. Now, I had so many of you telling me that you don't even have your Cricuts out of the box yet, or you're not touching it either. I hope this is the year that you start using your Cricut or your Silhouette if that's what you have. Let's do this together. Let's make these things a workhorse for us this year. I just used hot glue in order to apply the hearts down onto the sign. And there you have a super cute sign. I love this sign. I think it's absolutely fantastic for Valentine's Day. But this is something that we say to each other in my family all the time. I think it'd be really cute in a nursery. So many possibilities beyond just Valentine's Day. This project is absolutely meant for Valentine's Day, but we're going to do it so that the box can be used for other things, and it is such a quick and easy project to put together. I'm starting off by painting the box with Waverly's chalk paint in white. I'm going to paint the inside of the box as well as the outside of the box. And this is so that even though right now you're not going to see the inside of the box, if I want to use it for any future projects, it's already painted and ready to go. I'm getting all of my supplies ready and prepped before I move on with this project. My paint has completely dried. I already added some floral foam to the bottom of my box, and now I'm picking out my moss. Now, I chose to go with just the traditional floral moss, but I showed you that you could also choose like the reindeer moss. I wanted a green. I think the pop of color is perfect for this project, but of course you could use whatever you want. Now I'm just laying the moss on a plate because the moss is such a mess, and then we'll get back to that in just a little bit. But I'm also going to be using the red glitter hearts that you can find at Dollar Tree and some black stickers. I did trim the hearts down about 1 inch. I eyeballed that because I felt like they were just a little bit too tall for this box. And once I had them all trimmed down, and then I could go ahead and add the letters on. Now, you really could have added the letters before this day step, but I just chose to do it in this order. It doesn't matter. And so in order to hold my hearts where I needed them, I just placed a block of wood underneath there. And then to make sure those letters were not going to go anywhere for Be Mine, I used the Mod Podge to keep them on. Now, while the Mod Podge is drying, it's still a little slippy, slidey, so just make sure that that just lays there until it's all dried. But once it's dried, you can't tell that you use Mod Podge, and those letters are not going to budge. The moss is kind of chunky in parts, so I just took a pair of scissors to trim that up and take out those chunky bits, and then I could add the moss to cover up that foam. All that was left was to add Valentine to that Be My Valentine with some hot glue, and this project is done. And I think it is super cute, so fast, and the box is reusable for anything else you want to use it for. I am always looking for ways to add height as I am styling my decor, and using these two love signs was such a fun and easy way to do just that. I started by removing everything on the back, unscrewing the nails from the things that were hanging, or unscrewing the screws, I should say. I did have a screw that just did not want to come out, so I just pulled the metal around it off. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I did want to make things as seamless as possible. I use Waverly's chalk paint in white to paint both signs, both front and back. Now you can use any paint that you want, any chalk paint that you want. This is just so easy to get because again, it's at Walmart, but if you're at Hobby Lobby, just use a coupon. Or if you happen to already have something in your stash, that paint is perfect to use. I found that if I painted the edges first, I had less chances of having thicker spots of paint on my front and my back. So that would be my one tip for you, is to paint your edges first. If you do happen to get a spot that gets a little extra glob of paint or a little thicker spot of paint, go ahead and just take a fine grit sandpaper and just sand it down. Not a big deal. Now here you see that I have clamped the two pieces together. Kind of ignored that because I was trying not to do it with having to secure it, and it was a fail. So I'm going to actually show you what does work, because just doing this didn't. So we'll get to what works in a minute. In order to add a little bit more depth and dimension, I'm going in with Waverly's chalk paint in Elephant. This is a beautiful dark gray, and I'm using, this is actually a fan brush, but you could use just more of a fluffy brush. And I will be using this with the O and the E. And this is just to really help the O and the E pop a little bit more and add some separation between the letters. I'm not going in with any sort of preciseness on this. It kind of gives it more of a rustic look, kind of reminds me a little bit of like a birch tree look. And I go in a slightly heavy-handed. I don't want complete coverage, and I will be going back in with the white paint to even tone it down in just a minute. But I really love the effect that it creates with this, and just the texture that it creates. To blend in the gray a little bit, I did go in with a 220 grit sandpaper, and I just gave it a light sanding. After I had given a light sanding, I went in with my white to tone down the gray in spots, and to also clean up some of those edges where maybe I got just a little bit too willy-nilly. To go over the gray, I'm kind of doing more like a whitewash style technique, and I'm just using a fluffier brush. This is the 1-inch brush from Dollar Tree, and it is a perfect brush to do kind of that technique because it's a less dense brush. I don't like this brush I would not use it to paint anything like necessarily in my home, but for this style of a technique, it's a perfect brush. So back to how I secure the two signs together, I actually grabbed a couple of popsicle sticks. These are the larger popsicle sticks. I did get them at Dollar Tree, but sometimes they're difficult to find, but they're really easy to find at Walmart or at a craft store. I did trim down one because I did have that pesky little screw in the way. If you don't have that, you would not need to worry about trimming it down. And then I just use some wood glue. Now, I did also use some wood glue between the two signs as well, and I did not show that because I had already put that on earlier, so sorry about that. And once I had that down, I did go ahead and use the clamp again between, just for extra security on those two things, just to make sure that they were nice and secure. If you don't have clamps, I don't know that they're necessary. I really do think the popsicle sticks are your best bet. So make sure that you have something like that for your extra reinforcement. Now, I think this sign is fantastic because you can leave it either vertically or horizontally. But for vertical, I love trying to find things to give me some vertical height while I'm decorating, like I said earlier. And I think that this is fantastic to do just that. This last project was inspired by a project that I did when I attended a conference called Creativation and a technique that I learned there, and I'm so excited to share that with you. To start off with, I actually want to make this a sign that is a little bit more stable and not just accordion style. So I'm going to take this paint stick and trim it down so that you won't see it. And you can trim it down however you want to. And once you have it trimmed down, just use some wood glue in order to secure that onto the back of the sign and just let that set up and dry. Well, once you have it set up and dried, then I'm going to go in and sand the glitter off the front. That's such an easy thing to do. It comes off really easily, and we are actually going to be working on the front of the sign. Before I start to paint the sign, I go in with some wood filler and I go ahead and fill in the little hole where the original string was there to hang the sign, and I let that set up and dry. Once it's set up and dry, I do sand it smooth, and then I can paint the sign. You will also want to take the time to remove the ribbon from the back once the glue has dried, and then because the ribbon was great to have it and hold it as it was drying, but once it's completely dried, then you can peel the tape. I was a little impatient and was just kind of ripping it, but if you're going to use this for any sort of selling project, or you really like your projects to look really good completed on both sides, if you take a heat tool, whether it's a heat gun or your hair dryer, that will loosen up the adhesive and it will just peel off so easily. I'm going in with Waverly's chalk paint in Elephant, again that beautiful gray, and I'm just giving a nice coat over the entire front of this sign. You can also do the back, especially if you're one that likes to sell your signs. Make sure that you cover that back of the sign. And you just want a nice thin coat that completely covers that sign. Once your gray has set up, you're then going to go in with a candle. This is like a little tea light candle. You're going to take it off the metal and take the wick out because you don't want to have those. You just need the wax. Now the wax is so important here. So you're going to take the wax and you're going to rub it over your entire piece and cover it all the way up and get it nice and coated. This is going to provide a layer between the gray and the next color that you put on, and you'll see why that's important in just a moment. Once you have your wax on, make sure that you don't have any like goopy wax bits anywhere. If you do, you can rub it in, you can knock it off, whatever you need to do, but just no goopy bits. Once you have done that, I'm going in with Waverly's chalk paint in white. As you can see, I'm sticking with the color trend here, but you can use any two, I would say, contrasting colors that you want. So I'm going to go in with 2 thin coats of this. So I paint it on. I'm going to go ahead and let that kind of set up, dry almost all the way, get rid of that glossy look, and then I'm going to go in with the second coat. Once that has set up and it's almost dry, so again, that glossy coat is gone, I'm going to go in with a scraper. Now, you can get like a traditional paint scraper that you see here that I'm using, and I have really good control because it's short, and I can, of course, link something like this for you on Amazon. Or you can go in with the paint scraper that you can get at the Dollar Tree that you can also see that I'm using right here. It doesn't really matter. Use something, and you're just going to go and scrape first the edges, and then you can go in and scrape kind of the center of your sign, and you can distress the sign as much or as little as you want. I'm kind of going less is more on this one. I was being a little bit conscientious or careful. But what is fantastic is because of that wax, you kind of created a barrier so that you only get down to the gray, and it protects you from going all the way down to the bottom. And this gives you that chippy look, that real farmhousey look that we all really love. Isn't that just the best technique? I love this technique. So once you've scraped everything off, just kind of clean up any extra paint that you might have, and then we're going to go ahead and add the little metal word love onto the sign. I'm just using a little bit of super glue gel in order to do that, and you can also pick that up at Dollar Tree. I absolutely love this technique, and it's hard to believe that this was originally a Dollar Tree sign. So for just over $1, I was able to create this super cute farmhouse chippy sign, and I love it and definitely can take it past Valentine's Day. For my last project, I took a couple of these wooden hearts to make a super easy Valentine garland, and I absolutely love the way that it turned out. As always, I like to lay everything out so that I know exactly what it is that I'm working with. I like to work in odd numbers. I'm using 3 of the love hearts and 4 of the plain hearts. I'm using a watered down like acrylic or chalk paint. I'm doing gray, white, and black. I don't really think the combination matters. It's whatever works best with your decor. I do paint the front and the back because of the way that they are hung. You can sometimes see both sides. Once everything is painted and dried, then it's time that you can string them up. As you can see, I purposely have it so that you can see like the dark and the light or the wood through it, and I'm completely fine with that. Now, I'm using the white twine that comes in the automotive section from Dollar Tree. I'm going to just cut some smaller pieces, and that will be to hang on the larger piece that will be used to hang it on my fireplace mantle. I am also going in with a black Sharpie in order to bring out the love on that center white heart. And after I write in the Sharpie, I do go over with a 220 grit sandpaper and just give it a really light sanding to just soften the edges ever so slightly. The very last thing I decided to do is I have this other sign from Dollar Tree with these corrugated hearts, and I wanted to go ahead and grab 2 of the hearts off. I've used this sign in a previous project, or I used a similar sign, I should say. Now on this one, when I peeled off my heart, it has that little wooden piece underneath and it didn't come off, and I wanted it. So I did take the time to go ahead and pop that off just to give that extra dimension when I added it onto my garland. So all I did was heat it up so that glue would soften, and then I could pop it right off. So in order to attach these onto my wooden hearts, I just use some hot glue, and then there you have a super simple garland. I absolutely love this. And then the tiny one behind it that you see that goes along with it, that I will be sharing shortly. I just got those hearts in the bridal section at Hobby Lobby for $5. They were 50% off, and I think they came with like 200 hearts in a bag. If you are looking for more easy and affordable farmhouse decor, here is another video for you to check out. I would love to know which of these projects is your favorite. Leave that for me in the comments below. I do hope that you found this video helpful and enjoyable. Thank you so much for stopping by today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.